The pale red sand beneath Kalen Dravik's boots crunched with each labored step as he approached the black stone fortress that rose from the desert like a wound in the horizon. Twin moons hovered in the alien sky, their silver light washing the dunes in cold illumination. He had crossed this wasteland for 7 punishing days. His water had run out 2 days ago, his food 3. Only sheer will, and something he could not name, had kept him moving forward. It was not just stubbornness. It was a pull. A calling. The gates loomed ahead, slabs of obsidian carved with symbols that seemed to ripple when caught in moonlight. They groaned open without his touch, revealing a corridor stretching into the fortress's heart. A gust of air rolled out to meet him, carrying the scents of burning oil, spiced incense, and something older, danger wrapped in perfume. His hand slid to the plasma rifle across his back. It felt pitifully small in the shadow of whatever waited beyond. The walls flickered with blue-green torchlight, the flames casting restless shadows. Strange runes crawled across every surface, whispering histories of conquest in a language that predated mankind's first breath. Figures stepped from alcoves, tall, armored, faces hidden behind bestial helms. They carried weapons that hummed with restrained power, yet they did not block his way. They simply flanked him, silent predators guiding prey toward its fate. The corridor opened into a throne hall vast enough to swallow a starship. Its ceiling vanished into shadow above massive columns shaped like twisted trees. The polished obsidian floor mirrored torchlight, making it seem as though Kalen walked on a lake of fire. At the far end, Lord Voreth Karn sat on a crystalline throne. He was immense, 8 feet of burnished copper skin, eyes like molten gold, face carved into predatory perfection. His crown, forged of blackened metal and jeweled like a constellation trapped in iron, gleamed with stolen glory. Around him stood warriors from 100 conquered worlds, some in sleek marine armor, others in scaled desert mail, all bristling with trophies of violence. Kalen crossed the hall, every step an act of will under the crushing gravity of Voreth's gaze. "You crossed the desert alive," the tyrant rumbled, his voice shaking the floor. "Impressive. Most who try bleach to bone before the night hunters feast." Kalen said nothing. Voreth's teeth flashed. "Name your reward, off-worlder." "Gold." He gestured to chests spilling with coin and gems. "Weapons." He waved toward racks of alien armaments thrumming with stored death. "Freedom." The last word dripped with disdain. But Kalen's eyes were not on the treasures. Something in the shadows beside the throne drew him like gravity. She was there, half hidden in a dark alcove, shackled to the wall with chains as thick as his wrist. Her skin was the pale red of dying embers, her hair a deep metallic purple that caught stray torchlight in glints of steel and amethyst. Even in chains, her posture was regal, back straight, chin high, gaze forward. Her beauty was alien, her delicate features edged with strength. Amber eyes met his. The weight of centuries stared back. "I want her," Kalen said. Gasps rippled through the hall. Weapons shifted. The air thickened with the promise of blood. Voretha's expression hardened. "No one has unchained Serenia Vera for 200 years, he said slowly. "Do you know what you ask?" Kalen did not flinch. "I know what I want." At his voice, Serenia lifted her head fully. Her lips parted. "You came back." The word struck him like a blow. He had never seen her before in his life. He was certain of it. And yet. 2 centuries I waited, she said, voice strengthening. "For you to return and finish what you promised." "I don't understand," Kalen muttered, though doubt crept in. Images flickered at the edges of his mind, flames, screams, the scent of smoke. Voretha's spear cracked against the obsidian floor, silencing the hall. "Enough. She is not a prize. She is a curse. You may have her, if you survive the trial of the Unchained." At dawn, he would face her in the arena. She would be freed from the wall but not from her shackles, the chains themselves would become her weapons. Serena's eyes darkened. No. I won't. You will, Vorith cut in, or you both die slow. I accept, Kalen said. The tyrant's grin was cold. Guards seized him, dragging him toward the dungeon. As they pulled him away, he called back, your name. A pause. Then, almost too soft to hear, Serena. The name echoed in his mind all the way to his cell, where the arena's black sand was visible through a barred window. From the next cell, a rasping voice spoke. You're not the first. She said those words before. Kalen crouched by the grate. Who are you? Someone who's watched her lure men to their deaths. Zeolonian warrior. Merchant prince. They all swore she'd spoken to their soul. They all died. Kalen's gut twisted. Chains rattled. Serena's voice came through the wall, smooth as a blade sliding free of a sheath. Did you come here to die, Kalen Dravik? Or do you actually think I'll thank you? Her scent, strange, wild, drifted through the stone. She was close enough that, without the bars, she could have touched his face. He didn't answer. Instead, he slid the dented cup from the other prisoner back through the grate. The stranger chuckled. None of the others did that. They always claimed destiny. You just want her free. Hours later, before dawn, guards came. But instead of the arena, they took him to a crystalline chamber where Serena sat behind a translucent wall. She was no longer bound to the wall, though heavy shackles still weighed her wrists and ankles. You came, she said. I said I would. In the arena, her voice sharpened, I won't be able to control them. The chains feed on blood. Then you won't kill me. Her amber eyes flared with pain. I might not have a choice. The crystal between them began to cloud, ending their brief meeting. Real or not, Kalen called as her image faded, I'll free you. Her last words were a whisper through the closing veil, I hope you can forgive me for what I'm about to do. The first light of dawn cut a silver blade across the black stone walls of the arena. Tiered seating rose in a jagged circle, already filled with a crowd of dozens of species, some local, with copper skin and molten gold eyes like Vorith, others pale and elongated, insectoid, or plant-like, their fronds whispering in the wind. All had come for one reason, the trial of the Unchained. Kalen Dravik stepped onto the sand, the heat of the rising suns already biting at his skin. He could smell blood in the ground, old and fresh. He kept his gaze forward, toward the figure at the center of the arena. Serena Vera stood waiting, the morning light igniting the metallic sheen in her deep purple hair. Her pale red skin glowed like the inside of a dying ember. The chains coiled at her wrists were 20 feet long each, heavy links forged from the same dull, cursed metal as the collar at her throat. She wore a plain combat tunic that left her limbs free. Even in this place, under the eyes of a tyrant's court, she looked like a queen forced into gladiators' chains. When her amber eyes locked on him, the air between them seemed to thicken. You don't remember me, she said as the guards withdrew. But I remember you, Kalen. I remember everything. They began to circle each other. Kalen kept his plasma rifle low, its charge indicator a faint green. Then tell me, he said. Tell me what I'm supposed to remember. Her chains stirred, serpentine, as if listening. Your name was different then. Your face was different. But your soul, she struck without warning. One chain lashed toward him with the force of a meteor. He rolled aside, sand exploding where he'd been. The crowd roared. We were lovers, she continued, her voice carrying over the noise as if they were conversing at a quiet table. We were rebels. The citadel was our sanctuary. Another strike, aimed for his legs. He vaulted over it, firing as he came down. The plasma bolt hissed past her shoulder. What happened? He asked, breath sharp. Betrayal. One of our own sold us to Vorith's forces. They came in the night. The citadel burned. Everyone died, except us. Her chains lashed again, and this time one wrapped around the rifle, wrenching it from his grip and sending it skidding across the arena. You fought like a demon, she said, advancing. But there were too many. They brought you down with numbers. Something shifted in her. Her precision faltered, replaced by an animal speed. The chains writhed of their own accord. Her amber eyes began to glow from within. Serenia, Kalen said, backing away. Something's wrong. Fight it. I told you, she gasped, jerking as if her body no longer obeyed her, I can't control them. The chains struck, faster and harder. He barely ducked one that would have taken his head clean off. Then he saw it, his hands were bleeding from catching the links earlier. The chains shuddered, reacting to the scent. They smell blood, she said, her voice warping. They want more. Kalen stumbled back, nearly tripped by one whip of metal. She moved around him like a hunting cat, each strike a near miss. He could see her losing the fight for control. I can't stop, she whispered as one chain snapped around his ankle and yanked him off his feet. He rolled clear of the next strike, then stopped moving. Then don't. She froze mid-attack. What? If this is what it takes, Kalen said, breath ragged, then finish it. Her eyes widened, but not in anger. In recognition. And then the memory slammed into them both. They were standing in the citadel, fire raining down outside. The main gate was breaking. Soldiers poured through like a flood. Kalen, though not Kalen then, pressed a blade into her hands. The sword was ancient, forged from the same metal as the chains that now bound her. Take the passage to the desert, he'd told her. You can make it. Not without you, she'd said. Yes. Without me. Someone has to hold them here. I won't leave you to die alone. You're not leaving me. You're giving my death meaning. He'd kissed her, fierce and quick. Promise me you'll survive. Promise me you'll live. I promise. But promise me this, you'll come back to me. Even if it takes forever. Even if you have to cross death itself. I promise. Blood had sealed that vow on the blade's edge. The vision faded, leaving them gasping in the arena. You kept both promises, Serenia said softly. You gave me time to escape. And now, you came back. But if you escaped, Kalen said, how did you end up here? I returned for your body, she said, voice hardening. Vorith knew I would. He bound me with chains forged from your sword. The realization burned through him. That's why they react to me. And that's why only you can break them. Kalen's gaze swept the arena. Then let's break them. He lunged forward, grabbing one chain with both hands. The cursed metal pulsed like something alive, biting into his palms. He pulled with every shred of strength he had. The crowd's jeers turned to gasps as cracks spiderwebbed across the links. Then, with a sound like a thunderclap, the chain shattered. Shards of metal glittered in the morning light, raining down onto the black sand. Serenia swayed, staring at her freed wrists in wonder. You kept your promise. But above them, Lord Vorith rose from his seat, fury etched into every line of his copper face. You fool. You've unleashed her. Kalen glanced at Serenia, and froze. She wasn't looking grateful. She was looking hungry. She stepped close enough that her breath touched his ear. Now we finish it. The roar of the crowd was a distant hum in Kalen's ears. All he could hear was the rush of blood and Serenia's words, now we finish it. Weapons flew from the racks lining the arena wall as if answering her silent command. A curved sword landed in Kalen's grip, its metal the same dull gray as the shattered chains. Serenia needed no weapon, the air around her already shimmered with crackling energy, strands of violet light dancing between her fingers. Together, she asked. Together, he answered. They moved in unison, cutting through the royal guards that leapt into the pit. Kalen's sword cleaved armor and alien flesh alike, every strike powered by memories of their citadel's fall. Serenia was a storm of motion and light, her power tossing bodies into the walls like broken dolls. Spectators surged toward the exits as the chaos spilled beyond the arena. The trial had become a war. Kalen and Serenia pushed into the fortress corridors, climbing toward the throne room. "We take Vorith now," she said over the din, "before he rallies what's left of his guard." But halfway there, Kalen stopped cold. A fallen guard's armor caught his eye, familiar markings, the same insignia as the one who had slipped him water on his first night in the dungeons. "Serenia, wait." She didn't hear him, already surging ahead. Lord Vorith stood in the main hall, spear in hand, molten eyes burning with fury. Beside him was another figure in ornate black armor, Commander Therek Voss. Surprise flickered across Voss's face, quickly replaced by a smirk. "Did you think you crossed the desert by chance, human? You were guided here. The king needed someone to break her chains. She needed someone foolish enough to believe her." "He's lying," Serenia said, stepping toward Kalen. But there was a tightness in her voice he hadn't heard before. Voritha's smile was razor-thin. "Am I? Do you even know what she was before I chained her?" Kalen didn't have time to demand an answer. Voss moved, faster than Kalen expected, driving his energy blade through Serenia's back. The glowing tip burst from her chest in a spray of blue blood. Her amber eyes went wide. "Kalen," she whispered, collapsing into his arms. Something in him shattered. He laid her down gently, then rose with his sword in hand, murder flooding his veins. "You used me," Voss spat. "Everything you feel is her manipulation." Kalen didn't reply. He struck, his blade finding the gaps in Voss's armor with surgical precision. The commander staggered, tried to parry, failed. Kalen's sword pierced his ribs and came out the other side. Voss crumpled without another word. Kalen turned back to Serenia. She was alive, barely. "What he said," she gasped, "some of it's true. But what I feel for you, that's real." "Save your strength," Kalen said, pressing a hand to her wound. Voritha's shadow fell across them. Touching, the tyrant growled, spear humming with deadly light. "But this ends now." The throne room erupted into violence. The king was a giant in motion, each strike of his spear leaving ripples of destructive energy in its wake. Kalen's muscles screamed under the force of blocking a single blow. But they fought together, Kalen with the desperate precision of a man with nothing left to lose, Serenia with the raw power of a storm breaking its chains. They drove Vorith back, deeper into the crumbling fortress. "You think you can kill me?" Vorith snarled, deflecting Kalen's sword with a sweep that cracked the floor. "I am eternal." Serenia's hands flared with violet light. She slammed the full force of her magic into him, hurling the tyrant into a marble pillar that shattered on impact. Kalen was on him before he could rise, sword flashing for the kill, but Vorith caught him by the throat, lifting him clear off the ground. "If I cannot have her," the king gasped, blood streaking his lips, "no one can." The spear lunged toward Kalen's heart, but Serenia was there, hands clamping to either side of Voritha's head. Light burst between her palms. The king convulsed once, twice, then went still. His massive body crumpled to the floor. His crown rolled away, ringing against the stone like the toll of a funeral bell. "It's over," Serenia said. "Is it?" Kalen asked, watching the corpse. "It is now," she replied, tracing a burning sigil across Voritha's brow, a mark to bind his death. "Some powers linger. His won't." Around them, the fortress began to shake. The death of the king broke whatever enchantments held his soldiers loyal. Screams, fighting, and the sound of stone splitting filled the air. Kalen turned to share the moment with Serenia, only to find she was gone. Where she'd stood, a glowing symbol was scorched into the floor. Beneath it, carved deep into the stone, words he could somehow read: the chains were never his. They were always mine. Kalen searched the collapsing fortress, calling Serena's name, but his voice was swallowed by chaos. Freed slaves rushed through shattered gates, guards abandoned posts, and the once impenetrable order of Lord Vorith Karn's reign dissolved into smoke and blood. He found the dungeon deep below, where the air was cold and damp. The crying reached him first, thin, frightened voices. The cells were crude hollows carved into bedrock, packed with children of a dozen species. Tiny faces pressed to the bars, eyes wide with terror. The spawning chambers, a voice said behind him. Serena stepped from the shadows, her movements silent despite the falling debris overhead. What? Voritha's insurance policy, she said flatly. Children stolen from conquered worlds. Raised to serve, to fight, to die for his games. Her amber eyes flicked toward the cells. I could walk away from all this right now. From you. But you won't, Kalen said. She tilted her head, studying him. Would you risk our escape for strangers? Kalen looked at the small, desperate faces. Wouldn't you? Something unreadable passed over her expression, surprise, maybe disappointment. Without another word, she moved to the nearest cell. Energy sparked at her fingertips, melting the locks. One by one, the doors fell open. She stopped at a small cage holding a girl no more than 7 years old, with pale blue skin and silver hair. Serena froze, her breath catching. The child stared back at her with eyes too knowing for her age. I remember screaming from one just like this, Serena murmured, almost to herself. But no one came. She melted the lock, lifted the child out with unexpected gentleness, and whispered, until now. They led the children through burning corridors. The king's crown lay forgotten in a puddle of melted gold, its jewels scattered across the floor. When they reached the main gates, the desert stretched out before them under the twin moons, silver dunes rolling away into eternity. Kalen was about to step into the night when a voice stopped him. Going somewhere? He turned. Serena stood in the gateway's shadows. She looked different, more alive, more dangerous, as if some weight had been stripped from her soul. I thought you'd gone, he said. I had to be sure, she replied, stepping closer. To see if his death truly freed me. No hidden binds. No curses waiting to wake. Her smile was slow, deliberate. I'm free. For the first time in 2 centuries, I have no master, no one to serve but myself. That's good, Kalen said carefully. Is it? She drew something from behind her back. A length of chain, broken from the ones that had bound her wrists. It glinted in the moonlight. Do you remember what you promised me all those years ago? I promised to come back for you. To find you, no matter what it took. And, his brow furrowed as he tried to recall. I promised to be yours. Completely. Yes. Her voice was soft but carried the weight of centuries. In one smooth motion, she snapped the short chain around his neck. The metal clicked shut, and the same strange energy he had felt in her bonds surged into him. Kalen's hands shot to his throat, but it wasn't just a collar. The power threaded into him, bone, blood, soul. He couldn't move. Couldn't speak. 200 years ago, she said, touching a finger to his lips, you swore you'd be mine. Now you are. He stared into her amber eyes. They weren't cruel. They were worse, they were loving. Fiercely, possessively loving. This chain isn't just binding you to me, Serena whispered, tracing the metal against his skin. It's binding your soul. Even if you die again, you'll still be mine. Kalen should have been afraid. He wasn't. Somewhere deep inside, the part of him that remembered the citadels last night and the vows they had sworn welcomed it. Smoke rolled over the dunes as the fortress burned behind them. She took his hand, the chain swaying gently between them, and together they walked into the desert. Above, the twin moons hung over a sky spattered with alien stars. Somewhere in the distance, engines roared, the first of many who would come to see the tyrant's fall. But for now, there was only the sand, the stars, and the woman at his side. They were bound, not just by metal, but by a promise older than death. And as their shadows stretched long across the silver dunes, Kalen wondered whether this was the beginning of a legend, or a curse. If you've stayed with me to the end, you've just traveled across an alien desert, faced the trial of the unchained, seen a tyrant fall, and witnessed a love that bends even the laws of death. Kalen Dravik and Serenia Vera's story isn't a fairy tale, it's a reminder that sometimes the promises we keep can outlive us, and come back in ways we never expect. Vorith Karn's fortress may have burned to ash, his armies scattered to the winds, but the chain around Kalen's neck is proof that not every victory ends with freedom. Some bonds are chosen. Others are forged in fire, sealed in blood, and carried forever. Maybe that's the truth of it, love isn't always gentle. Sometimes it's sharp-edged, possessive, and impossible to escape. Serenia Vera waited 2 centuries to reclaim what she believed was hers, and in the end, she got it. Whether that's salvation or damnation, well, maybe that's for another story. If you want to see where their path leads. Whether they face the galaxy together as conquerors, fugitives, or something far stranger, make sure you're here when the next chapter drops. So, if you enjoyed walking this burning road with me, do me one last favor, hit the subscribe button, drop a like, and share this with someone who loves their sci-fi with a side of danger and obsession. Because out there in the far reaches of space, every story's a chain, and the only way to break it is to keep telling it.